Hey guys, it's Melanie. Happy Tuesday. And are you in for a treat today? So, I am continuing my kind of 90s nostalgic beauty series here. A couple of weeks ago, I uploaded a video that was all about the 90s skincare routine that I had throughout that particular decade, and it was so fun to see all of your guys' comments. So many of you were like, yes, I remember that, and it was just a really fun trip down memory lane, and I loved that so many of you joined in. And we're going to continue that series today. I still have a few more videos up my sleeve even after this, so do stay tuned. But today we're talking about 90s hair care. And the 90s were kind of a rough, they were a little rough for me just overall in terms of beauty stuff, but especially in the hair department, because I did some stuff to my hair in the 90s and I used some products then that, just thinking back on them now, make me cringe. And so today I'm gonna share with you the 90s hair care products and hair accessories and different gadgets and hair looks that I sported during that particular decade. This video series was actually initially inspired by my friend over at Kate the Great Beauties channel. I was listening in on one of her live streams, and somehow, by the way, the live streams are hysterical. They're so much fun. If you haven't watched one, if you haven't subscribed to Kate, I will link her channel down below. She's so funny, and the people that join her for those live streams are amazing. They're hysterical. Like when you read through like the comments, just hilarious people. I love them. So I try to pop in there as often as I can just because I get such a good chuckle out of a lot of the commentary that is brought about by her live streams. So please do tune into one of those if you haven't already. But so anyway, this was inspired by one of her live videos. And so a big thanks to Kate for having these live videos and inspiring this series, which I am passionately in love with, because I think the 90s were by far probably my favorite decade so far. So I was born in 1978, so that means that I spent most of the 80s being a kid. So, you know, between the ages of like 1 and 10 or 11, you know, that was the 80s, and it was really before I really started getting into a lot of beauty stuff. But I entered the middle school years at the very beginning of the 90s, and then went through to high school, which, woo, some of the things I did then. And then kind of starting college, because I started college in 98. I took a year off after high school. So, but yeah, I'm so excited to share these with you guys, because I know so many of you are going to be like, oh my God, I totally use that. I have my list. I've got it in front of me here. So we're just going to start with some of the more like just random products that I remember using. So my mom was pretty cheap when it came to beauty stuff. Anything that we got for like shampoos, conditioners, hairspray, things like that had to come from the drugstore, because my mom was like, no, I'm not spending money on Paul Mitchell Awapuhi. I think that's what it's pronounced as. Awapuhi shampoo and conditioner. It's not happening. You can have VO5 shampoos and conditioners. Loved me some VO5 shampoo and conditioners. Also, do you guys remember using the VO5 hot oil treatments? I lived for the VO5 hot oil treatments because, and we'll get into this just a little bit later on in the video, but your girl was very fond of perming her hair in the early 90s. Oh yes, yeah. Anything for body. Anything for big hair. Like, big hair was a complex for me when I was 5, I think. Like, I always looked at other girls who had like long, beautiful hair, and my mom was like, you get a bowl cut. It was, yeah, I lusted after big hair, but yeah, so I would perm my hair, and which would damage the ever-loving you-know-what out of it. And I thought, you know what's gonna fix this is a VO5 hot oil treatment. That greasy, like, you had to like put it in warm water first, and then you would like put it through your ends and work it all the way up. And then it would take like 5 or 6 shampoos to get out. Maybe not for everybody, but my hair was like, we're hanging on to this greasy goodness. So bad for my hair, just not good for my particular hair type. And I don't think it ever really did anything to fix the damage from the perms that I was getting. So VO5 was a huge brand. Also, Salon Selectives. I don't think, besides Herbal Essences, which is another one, but I don't think there was a better smelling hair care brand in the 90s than Salon Selectives. I loved their shampoos, their conditioners. The mousse from Salon Selectives was definitely a favorite of mine. It really made my perm extra crunchy. Just gross feeling, but I was like, I love this stuff. And I would just scrunch my hair up and then work on my fabulous like side swept bang. By the way, don't mind this mess today. I just gave up on life. So yeah, Herbal Essences, specifically from Herbal Essences, the rose one, the one that had the roses on it, that was my favorite smell from them. I think that one was actually for, I think that was meant for maybe a drier hair type from what I remember. But I love the smell of that one, and I love that it was pink. And so Herbal Essences, the rose version, all over it. Loved it. What else? The LOreal Studio line. So I loved the LOreal Studio line specifically for their styling products. So they had these great like scrunch sprays. So like it was basically like a hairspray in a pump format that you would spray all throughout your hair, and then you would scrunch your hair. And like if you had wavy hair or permed hair, it would make those waves or curls more defined. I don't know what the purpose was. It made my hair feel like straw. I'm sure most of that stuff was just pure alcohol. But yes, love that. Also, the Aussie hair care line. So I loved the deep treatment. So the it was like a mask that came in like this weird squeezy thing where it like came out the bottom, and you didn't have like a lid for the bottom because it had this weird like silicone valve thing. Anyway, loved that. Also specifically loved the Aussie hairspray, the one that came not in the like continuous spray, but the one that you had to pump, like the pump hairspray. Love those. I was like, I'm not killing the ozone with these because there's no VOCs or whatever was in the hairspray at the time that was causing the depletion of the ozone layer. We are far past that point right now, but yeah, that was a huge concern for me. For whatever reason, I was like, I don't want to ruin the planet. So I would buy the pump hairspray. Yes. It's quite the little activist even back then. LA Looks. Do you guys remember LA Looks? Specifically their gels. I loved the LA Looks gels. Again, great with a perm. You would just scrunch it in, and then you would have these defined, just crunchy looking curls, and great to help get that like height with your bangs. But oh, that like wave. Oh, I had, for as fine and thin as my hair was, I had an impressive early 90s bang. Like it was good. It was the one where you split your bangs in half, and one half would like do the wave, and then the other half was like your wispy bangs coming down. So you had bangs that either went up in the air completely, or you had the half and half where you had your bangs curled. So it was like a literal like wave going down onto it. It was awful. I wish I had some pictures to show you guys. I can't remember what I did with my photo album that has all these pictures of me in middle school, but rough. What else? Okay, Sun In. Did you guys use Sun In? loved sun-in. But when my mom was like, no, we're not putting that in the shopping cart, she was like, use lemon juice. So I thought, so I would take my mom's lemons and I would just like rub them into my hair, not only drying my hair out, but then I would go out and sit on a trampoline. I would cover myself in baby oil because that's how you attracted the sun's rays. With my lemon juice in my hair, I would just be burning my skin and frying my hair. It is why I now go to get yearly mole checks, because I'm fairly certain at some point in my life, if I don't get a skin cancer of some point before like I die, it's going to be a miracle based on how much time I spent with my friends laying on trampolines. That was like the best way to get a tan back then. Oh, and you would just fry. Like you would just put the baby oil on and fry. It was horrible. In terms of accessories, the things that I really loved were scrunchies, look what's back, scrunchies, and the butterfly clips. Do you guys remember the butterfly clips? So the most iconic image to me is Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I think, was it Melissa Joan Hart? I think that's who played the Teenage Witch. But like, you would basically take the front of your hair in sections and just put these little tiny clips in, and then you would have them going around like your head like this. So you would just take little sections and put the clips in, and then you just had this like halo of like colorful butterfly clips. They were so tacky. And they were like, some of them were really sharp, like the little grippy parts like would grab your scalp and sometimes just like scratch the hell out of your scalp. Like it was painful sometimes. What else? Okay, so let's talk about perming. Perming was my solution to not having big hair in the early 90s. I definitely got over that trend after middle school, and I was like, well, this is what it is. Plus, my hair never really 100% took the perm, so there were certain sections that would stay straight. Like they refused to hold the curl despite being saturated with that toxic perming solution. Like that smell will never leave my memory. It is the most disgusting, like I can't even, if you've had a perm, you know, it stinks. And I would get a perm like my mom would typically allow me to do it like every 6 months. So my hair would start to grow out and it was just like flat as can be, like you guys normally see it. And then just frizzy perm and sections that were still straight. It looked awful. And I think I remember people telling me that maybe the perm isn't really your thing. Your hair doesn't really want to take a perm. And I was like, no, just keep going. It's fine. I'll use like a curling iron. So I had this tiny little curling iron that I would use to try to like curl the sections that didn't take with the perm. Had to do that every single day. And on days where I was lazy, I would just leave them straight and try to scrunch them with my gels and my mousses. And then I would like pump all that hairspray into my hair just to hold it in place. It was delightful. In the like later 90s when I was in high school, my big thing was A-line bobs. Loved the A-line bob. Still sporting it. Couple decades later, loved A-line bobs. And then I thought, you know what else is a good idea? Coloring my hair. Ooh, I really got into coloring my hair when I started in high school. First, I had to start with KoolAid because my mom was like, no, I don't really want you coloring your hair. It's a really pretty color. It was a beautiful shade of blonde, like kind of like Stella's where it's like that golden buttery. It was such a beautiful shade of blonde. I mean, I don't know why I didn't appreciate it, but I didn't. So I would use KoolAid. So So yeah, I would just take KoolAid and several packets at a time and put it into like a little spray thing, spray it all over my hair, and then rinse it out a couple hours later, and I was just left with like a tint of red or a tint of blue or something like that. Then once my mom was like, all right, the KoolAid thing needs to stop, she was like, we'll buy you some hair color, but you need to do it at home. I'm not paying for you to like go and get your hair done at a salon. So my junior year, my bright idea was, I'm gonna dye my hair black because it's really dramatic and I think it's gonna look really good with my blue-green eyes. At the time, they were still kind of changing. So my eyes actually started changing color when I was in middle school, high school. They went from blue, like my daughter's color blue, to green. And I thought the best way to accentuate my eyes, because that was my favorite feature at the time, was to have really dark hair. So colored my beautiful buttery blonde hair black with like a L'Oreal at-home box color. This was like, I did it about a week before I started the 11th grade. I showed up to school and I remember some of my friends just being like, what did you do? I was like, doesn't it look great? And they were like, I think they even had the good sense to be like, that was a terrible idea. And it was, because you know what I had to do? I had to spend my entire junior year and my entire senior year growing out that black, because there was no way to remove that black dye from my hair. So this is what happened. I would grow my hair out and I just had this halo of blonde, like probably would have been considered cool nowadays. It was very Billie Eilish of me. Except I wasn't quite that cool back then. But yeah, it was like just blonde and black. And luckily, by the time that I had to have my senior pictures taken, it had grown out to the point where I was able to chop off the black, but I then had the shortest little bob ever. And my senior pictures, I hate them. When I go to my parents' house and I see my senior pictures, I just am like, oh no. That was such a dumb haircut. I should have just gone for like a pixie or something, but it's just this like awkward, like awkwardly short bob. Like no bob should ever be this short, but I was like, I gotta cut off the black. I have to take my senior pictures. Ugh, so bad. So dyeing my hair black, that was a huge thing. In terms of my favorite hair gadgets, I loved, especially in kind of like the early to mid 90s. I think that's when this came out, definitely by the mid 90s, because I asked for it for Christmas one year. Do you guys remember the Caruso steam curlers? So I think by that point I had gotten out of like the perm phase. But I was like, I still like having curly hair and body in my hair. So I bought one of those Caruso steamers. Actually, my mom did, because this girl had zero money in the 90s. At least during most of the 90s, because I didn't work until after I graduated from high school. So yeah, it was like this thing where you would put water into this little container and then you stuck these rollers that had like a foam, like this foam core, and basically what would happen is the steam would come up and go into the center of that foam covered curler, heat up that foam, and then immediately you would take it off, and it would half the time burn your fingers because that steam was hot. And then you would very quickly like roll your hair, and then you would put the little clip in, and then you would leave it in typically for about an hour or so, and then you would take it out, and half the time it looked like garbage because I wouldn't take the time to really neatly tuck in the ends. So the ends of my hair were like, blah, 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 like just all sorts of different directions. And then I would have like this really nice curl in the middle part of my hair, and then the top would be flat. But I thought, look at my curly hair. Doesn't it look great? Did any of you guys have the Caruso hair steam curler situation? I feel like a lot of people did, because that thing was sold on infomercials like it was going out of style. And that's where I originally, I think, found it, was an infomercial. I do think it was, in fact, $19.99 plus shipping and handling. All those products are still the same price. Like everything as seen on TV, $19.95. And then the last hair care gadget that I loved through most of the 90s was my hair crimper. I loved crimping my hair because it definitely took a lot better than my perm did. So when I couldn't really make it work with like the steam curlers, or I didn't have time to do the steam curlers, I would whip out my huge, I think it was Conair, hair crimper, and I would just crimp my hair. And then that would turn into frizz poodle hair, because I always had short hair, just like I do now. My mom was just like, the long hairs, and it's not your friend. So she usually made me cut it like somewhere around like this area. So with the crimper, it would come up to here, and then it was like a triangle of frizz that just was framing my face. And I thought, this looks so good and feels so luxurious. Feel all this texture in my fine, thin, straight hair. Now it's crimped and fabulous. It wasn't fabulous. Anyway, you guys, those were my 90s hair care go-tos. I love these products. I look back on them with such fond memories. They honestly bring a smile to my face. I feel like everyone has to go through like their kind of awkward, unfortunate phase as they're going through middle school, high school. Mine was, I mean, it was good. It was a good phase. If I do come across my, my like photo album in the next few days, I will try to post a couple pictures on Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, you should do that. I do think that I still have my high school ID card from my junior year with the black hair. I think I know where that is. So I will for sure be posting that, because that's good stuff. So anyway, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. If you have any amazing 90s hair care memories, please leave them down below in the comments. Like I said, I loved reading your guys' comments about the skincare from the 90s. Next week, I am super excited to share with you guys my favorite 90s perfumes. This is going to be an epically long list of fabulous, fabulous 90s fragrances, because your girl was a fragrance nut even back then. And if there was one thing that I asked for Christmas every single year, it was perfume. And that was the one thing that my mom always came through on. She was like, you want Charlie exclamation? You're getting a big bottle of it for Christmas. So anyway, I'm excited to share those products with you guys next week. Let me know if you have any questions, or not that there could be any on this video, but be sure to go follow me on Instagram, because I am now gonna go and search for those pictures. So, all right, you guys, have a great rest of your day, and be sure to check out Kate if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.